Don't let them pump your baby up with the largest pile of stuff you've ever seen in your life going into the, which is basically commonly known as Tylenol, during pregnancy, can be associated with a very increased risk of autism.
Now, Trump said his administration is linking Tylenol's active ingredients to autism and is advising pregnant women to avoid the drug. He also announced that his administration has begun the approval process for the leucovorin calcium tablets as a potential treatment for condition associated with autism. The claim drew immediate criticism from medical experts who stressed it is unproven and contradicts established science. Now let us look at what experts are saying about Trump's unfounded claims. The WHO has said that evidence of a link between the use of paracetamol during a pregnancy and autism remains inconsistent.
There were some observational studies that have suggested a possible association between prenatal exposure to acetaminophen or paracetamol and autism. But the evidence remains inconsistent. Several studies that have done after that have found no such a relationship. And if the link between acetaminophen and autism were strong, it would likely have been consistently observed across multiple studies.
I would say we have strong evidence that acetaminophen is not causing autism. It's certainly not the cause of autism. And so to make that sort of statement that nobody should take Tylenol takes away the individualized nature of how we practice medicine and how these medicines are prescribed for families, for the people that they're prescribed for, both during pregnancy and for children.
Dr. Stephen Fleischman, president of the American College of Obstetricians and the gynecologist, cautioned that the claims surrounding Tylenol could needlessly alarm expectant mothers and the parents of the children with autism. Not treating the fever probably has more adverse effect than you need to worry about taking the medicine. American Academy of Pediatrics President Dr. Susan Kressly said studies have repeatedly found no credible link between life-saving childhood vaccines and autism. Any effort to misrepresent sound, strong science poses a threat to the health of children. Autism is influenced by a mix of genetic and environmental factors, but no single cause has been proven, said Dr. Emily Carter, a child development researcher at the Johns Hopkins University. Now on this issue, I'm joined by Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, Chairman, Nephron Clinic. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me. So can you just decode this entire controversy for us?
Hi, good evening. So I think what is very, very clear is that there is no conclusive evidence-based medicine, data-proven, scientific basis-driven link between Tylenol, which is acetaminophen, which we commonly use as paracetamol in India, and autism. Autism is a multifactorial neurodevelopmental disorder. Yes, the incidence of autism is increasing worldwide, the prevalence, but it's for a variety of reasons. Almost 70 to 92% of children who are diagnosed with autism have a genetic link. There is sufficient studies to show that there are more than 800 genetic links which precipitate autism, out of which none of them are related with Tylenol use. I must add that in pregnancy, at all stages, all medicines, not only Tylenol or paracetamol, antibiotics, anti-inflammatory, any other medicine which is prescribed should be under medical supervision. Justified use of a fever medicine is much better than the fever itself, which can harm the mother and indeed the fetus. There are now even allele links, which have been called as NR3C2, which is the main mutation which actually precipitates autism. I must add that air pollution, plastic pollution, environmental causes, prenatal exposure to environmental factors, familial rings, family history, all these, including gestational diabetes during pregnancy, precipitate autism. There is no direct conclusive link. I'll just take a minute more. The studies which have so far shown some sort of distant association between any medication and autism are very small studies which are inconclusive. The largest studies, which include 2.5 million children, which is called as the ALQUIS study, has shown no link. The Japan study, which has analyzed 2 lakh autism children, shows no link. Genetic is the answer, not one particular drug, not at all.
So are we looking at a larger pharmaceutical war? Because in America, medicine is also about business, big business.
I don't think that will precipitate or cascade into that kind of roller coaster effect, because Tylenol or paracetamol or acetaminophen is a very, very cheap, readily available medication. The advice which we should be giving sensibly and academically, scientifically is use medicines under medical supervision, especially in pregnancy. It's not only paracetamol or acetaminophen, any other medication, including antibiotics. A short course, which is medically justified, will do more good than harm.
Dr. Bagay, during COVID, America saw sort of a politics which was about not administrating COVID vaccines. Now, you have positions from a religious perspective on medicines. The American administration, especially under the Trump administration, has taken divergent view on the issue of medicine. How, India have, in that context, have been far more progressive. Do you think this might have a larger impact on the way the community of science and the medicine can get affected? Because America, at least for now, is at the cutting edge of medical technology. I mean, they're still there.
I think science and politics should be kept well away from each other. No politician in any position in any country should be giving medical advice, medical opinion. As far as US is concerned, I think they have a very good platform of CDC. They have a reasonably good platform of WHO. They also have American medical associations, American pediatric associations. They are very robust bodies. They would be best placed. Like in India, we have ICMR, we have the Indian Health Department, we have Indian Association of Pediatrics, we have Indian Physician Association. So there are lots of platforms who give this kind of advice. With regards to vaccines, I think the greatest invention and discovery in the last 100 years has been vaccines. Only in the last 50 years, vaccines have a direct saving life effect of more than 154 million children under the age group of 5. This is revolutionary. So for anyone as a politician to say that don't take jabs, don't take vaccines, this is wrong, it is unscientific, and it's giving a wrong messaging to public.
So, let me take a closing comment, sir. So is paracetamol safe? Can we use paracetamol?
Any drug is safe provided it has a medical prescription, if it is used in the correct doses, if it is used for the correct indication.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Bagay. Thank you so much. And Dr. Bagay has spoken about the entire issue that the politics and the medicine should never mix. But, in America, Trump is exactly doing the opposite. So this was on point 2. The next on point is on the US President Donald Trump's desperation to regain the Bagram air base from Taliban. Why? I'll explain it. The Taliban Supreme Leader Hibatullah Akhundzada has condemned US President Donald Trump's bid to retake Bagram's air base 4 years after the chaotic US withdrawal from Afghanistan handed control of the strategic military base to the Taliban. Trump has renewed his push to regain the military facility. On Saturday, Trump expressed his desire to reestablish a US presence at Bagram, claiming US is talking to Afghanistan about possibility, though he provided no further details about these discussions. However, the Chief of Staff of the Afghan Defense Ministry, Faisuddin Fitrat, dismissed Trump's comments. Ceding even an inch of a soil to anyone is out of question and impossible, he said during a speech broadcast by Afghan media.
We won't talk about that, but we're talking now to Afghanistan, and we want it back, and we want it back soon, right away. And if they don't do it, you're going to find out what I'm going to do.
در این اواخر سر و صداهایی از طرف بعضی‌ها گویا بالا میشد که ما با امارت اسلامی افغانستان به خاطر باز پس گرفتن میدان هوایی بگرام داخل گفتگو و مذاکره هستیم و گویا تعامل میکنیم و از روی زور نتونستیم، از روی تعامل سیاسی میخواهیم که ما پس این منطقه را به دست بیاوریم. این برای هموطنای عزیزی خود، برای مردم افغانستان، برای مردم مسلمان افغانستان این ما اطمینان میدیم که این که در برابر خاکمان یک وجب خاکمان، یک بلیست خاکمان با کسی تعامل شود، این چیزی است که هیچ امکان نداره و امکان پذیر نیست.
So is Bagram Air Base a strategic linchpin of US power projection? Why is Donald Trump obsessed with it? He's obsessed because Bagram is very strategic. Bagram was built by the Russians. Bagram is the biggest base. Bagram is important because from Bagram you can operate the entire Central Asia, you can operate the Chinese border. From Bagram you can operate the West Asian border. From Bagram you can actually also operate the South Asian border. So Bagram is very, very important. On this issue, I am joined by Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni and Major General Sanjay Meston. Let me straight away go to Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni. Sir, obviously Taliban is not going to give Bagram, but why do they want Bagram when they quit from Bagram, when they ran away from Bagram?
Karthikeyan, thank you very much. First and foremost, the Bagram Air Base, even when the Doha talks were on, there's nothing on the American mind, even at that point of time, to take back this air base. If it had been, the Americans probably would not have vacated, because the vacation of the Bagram Air Base was in July. And well, we know 15th of August, Taliban took over. But notwithstanding that, obviously the Americans probably now seem to feel that they now need to keep an eye on China, they need to keep an eye on Iran, they need to keep an eye on Russia. So if that be so, with that in mind, but then the question is, how do they get to Bagram? Because if the Taliban does not see eye to eye with
I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry, sir. Sorry. I'm really sorry that, I really need to break into a big breaking news that is coming from America. I invited both of you for my discussion, but Donald Trump has started to speak at UNGA, sir.
Asia and many, many others. Likewise, in a period of just 7 months, I have ended 7 unendable wars. They said they were unendable. You're never going to get them solved. Some were going for 31 years, 2 of them, 31, think of it, 31 years. One was 36 years. One was 28 years. I ended 7 wars. And in all cases, they were raging with countless thousands of people being killed. This includes Cambodia and Thailand, Kosovo and Serbia, the Congo and Rwanda, a vicious, violent war that was, Pakistan and India, Israel and Iran, Egypt and Ethiopia, and Armenia and Azerbaijan. It included all of them. No president or prime minister, and for that matter, no other country has ever done anything close to that. And I did it in just 7 months. It's never happened before. There's never been anything like that. I'm very honored to have done it. It's too bad that I had to do these things instead of the United Nations doing them. And sadly, in all cases, the United Nations did not even try to help in any of them. I ended 7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help in finalizing the deal. All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle. If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen, but she's in great shape. We're both in good shape. We both stood. And then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the 2 things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. Thank you very much. And by the way, it's working now. It just went on. Thank you. I think I should just do it the other way. It's easier. Thank you very much. I didn't think of it at the time because I was too busy working to save millions of lives. That is the saving and stopping of these wars. But later I realized that the United Nations wasn't there for us. They weren't there. I thought of it really after the fact, not during these negotiations, which were not easy. That being the case, what is the purpose of the United Nations? The UN has such tremendous potential. I've always said it. It has such tremendous, tremendous potential, but it's not even coming close to living up to that potential. For the most part, at least for now, all they seem to do is write a really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up. It's empty words, and empty words don't solve war. The only thing that solves war and wars is action. Now, after ending all of these wars and also earlier negotiating the Abraham Accords, which is a very big thing for which our country received no credit, never receives credit. Everyone says that I should get the Nobel Peace Prize for each one of these achievements. But for me, the real prize will be the sons and daughters who live to grow up with their mothers and fathers, because millions of people are no longer being killed in endless and unglorious wars. What I care about is not winning prizes, it's saving lives. We saved millions and millions of lives with the 7 wars. And we have others that we're working on, and you know that. Many years ago, a very successful real estate developer in New York, known as Donald J. Trump, I bid on the renovation and rebuilding of this very United Nations complex. I remember it so well. I said at the time that I would do it for $500 million, rebuilding everything. It would be beautiful. I used to talk about, I'm going to give you marble floors. They're going to give you terrazzo. I'm going to give you the best of everything. You're going to have mahogany walls. They're going to give you plastic. But they decided to go in another direction, which was much more expensive at the time, and which actually produced a far inferior product. And I realized that they did not know what they were doing when it came to construction, and that their building concepts were so wrong, and the product that they were proposing to build was so bad and so costly. It was going to cost them a fortune. And I said, and wait till you see the overruns. Well, I turned out to be right. They had massive cost overruns and spent between $2 and $4 billion on the building and did not even get the marble floors that I promised them. You walk on terrazzo. Do you notice that? As far as I'm concerned, frankly, looking at the building and getting stuck on the escalator, they still haven't finished the job. They still haven't finished. That was years ago. The project was so corrupt that Congress actually asked me to testify before them on the tremendous waste of money, because it turned out that they had no idea what it was, but they knew it was anywhere between $2 and $4 billion as opposed to $500 million with a guarantee. But they had no idea, and I said it cost much more than $5 billion. Unfortunately, many things in the United Nations are happening just like that, but on an even much bigger scale, much, much bigger. Very sad to see. Whether the UN can manage to play a productive role, I've come here today to offer the hand of American leadership and friendship to any nation in this assembly that is willing to join us in a safer, more prosperous world. And it's a world that we'll be much happier with. A dramatically better future is within our reach. But to get there, we must reject the failed approaches of the past and work together to confront some of the greatest threats in history. There is no more serious danger to our planet today than the most powerful and destructive weapons ever devised by man, of which the United States, as you know, has many. Just as I did in my first term, I've made containing these threats a top priority, starting with the nation of Iran. My position is very simple. The world's #1 sponsor of terror can never be allowed to possess the most dangerous weapon. That's why shortly after taking office, I sent the so-called Supreme Leader a letter making a generous offer. I extended a pledge of full cooperation in exchange for a suspension of Iran's nuclear program. The regime's answer was to continue their constant threats to their neighbors and U.S. interests throughout the region and some great countries that are right nearby. Today, many of Iran's former military commanders, in fact, I can say almost all of them, are no longer with us. They're dead. And 3 months ago, in Operation Midnight Hammer, 7 American B-2 bombers dropped the 14 30,000-pound each bombs on Iran's key nuclear facilities, totally obliterating everything. No other country on earth could have done what we did. No other country has the equipment to do what we did. We have the greatest weapons on earth. We hate to use them. But we did something that for 22 years people wanted to do. With Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity demolished, I immediately brokered an end to the 12-day war, as it's called, between Israel and Iran, with both sides agreeing to fight no longer. As everyone knows, I have also been deeply engaged in seeking a ceasefire in Gaza. Have to get that done. Have to get it done. Unfortunately, Hamas has repeatedly rejected reasonable offers to make peace. We can't forget October 7th, can we? Now, as if to encourage continued conflict, some of this body is seeking to unilaterally recognize a Palestinian state. The rewards would be too great for Hamas terrorists for their atrocities. This would be a reward for these horrible atrocities, including October 7th, even while they refuse to release the hostages or accept a ceasefire. Instead of giving to Hamas and giving so much, because they've taken so much, they have taken so much. This could have been solved so long ago. But instead of giving in to Hamas's ransom demands, those who want peace should be united with one message: release the hostages now. Just release the hostages now. Thank you. Thank you. As we have got to come together, and we will come together, going to get it done. We have to stop the war in Gaza immediately. We have to stop it. We have to get it done. We have to negotiate, immediately have to negotiate peace. We got to get the hostages back. We want all 20 back. We don't want 2 and 4. As you know, I got, along with Steve Witkoff and others that helped us, Marco Rubio, we got most of them back. We were involved in all of them. But I always said the last 20 are going to be the hardest, and that's exactly what happened. We have to get them back now. We don't want to get back 2, and then another 2, and then 1, and then 3. Have this process. No, we want them all back, and we want the actually 38 dead bodies back too. Those parents came to me, and they want them back, and they want them back very quickly and very badly, as though they were alive. They want them. They want them every bit as much as if their son or daughter were alive. I've also been working relentlessly, stopping the killing in Ukraine. I thought that would be, of the 7 wars that I stopped, I thought that would be the easiest because of my relationship with President Putin, which had always been a good one. I thought that was going to be the easiest one. But, you know, in war, you never know what's going to happen. There are always lots of surprises, both good and bad. Everyone thought Russia would win this war in 3 days, but it didn't work out that way. It was supposed to be just a quick little skirmish. It's not making Russia look good. It's making them look bad. No matter what happens from here on out, this was something that should have taken a matter of days, certainly less than a week, and they've been fighting for 3.5 years and killing anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000 young soldiers, mostly soldiers, on both sides, every single week, from 5,000 to 7,000 dead young people, and some in cities, much smaller numbers, where rockets are shot, where drones are dropped. This war would never have started if I were president. This was a war that should have never happened. It shows you what leadership is, what bad leadership can do to a country. Look what happened to the United States, and look where we are right now in just a short period of time. The only question now is how many more lives will be needlessly lost on both sides. China and India are the primary funders of the ongoing war by continuing to purchase Russian oil. But inexcusably, even NATO countries have not cut off much Russian energy and Russian energy products, which, as you know, I found out about 2 weeks ago, and I wasn't happy. Think of it. They're funding the war against themselves. Who the hell ever heard of that one? In the event that Russia is not ready to make a deal to end the war, then the United States is fully prepared to impose a very strong round of powerful tariffs, which would stop the bloodshed, I believe, very quickly. But for those tariffs to be effective, European nations, all of you are gathered here right now, would have to join us in adopting the exact same measures. I mean, you're much closer to this. We have an ocean in between. You're right there. And Europe has to step it up. They can't be doing what they're doing. They're buying oil and gas from Russia while they're fighting Russia. It's embarrassing to them, and it was very embarrassing to them when I found out about it, I can tell you that. They have to immediately cease all energy purchases from Russia. Otherwise, we're all wasting a lot of time. So I'm ready to discuss this. We're going to discuss it today with the European nations, all gathered here. I'm sure they're thrilled to hear me speak about it, but that's the way it is. I like to speak my mind and speak the truth. As we seek to reduce the threat of dangerous weapons today, I'm also calling on every nation to join us in ending the development of biological weapons once and for all. And biological is terrible, and nuclear is even beyond, and we include nuclear in that. We want to have a cessation of the development of nuclear weapons. We know, and I get to view it all the time. Sir, would you like to see? And I look at weapons that are so powerful that we just can't ever use them. If we ever use them, the world literally might come to an end. There would be no United Nations to be talking about. There would be no nothing. Just a few years ago, reckless experiments overseas gave us a devastating global pandemic. Yet despite that worldwide catastrophe, many countries are continuing extremely risky research into bioweapons and man-made pathogens. This is unbelievably dangerous. To prevent potential disasters, I'm announcing today that my administration will lead an international effort to enforce biological weapons convention, which is going to be meeting with the top leaders of the world by pioneering an AI verification system that everyone can trust. Hopefully the UN can play a constructive role, and it will also be one of the early projects under AI. Let's see how good it is, because a lot of people are saying it could be one of the great things ever, but it also can be dangerous, but it could be put to tremendous use and tremendous good, and this would be an example of that. Not only is the UN not solving the problems it should, too often, it's actually creating new problems for us to solve. The best example is the #1 political issue of our time, the crisis of uncontrolled migration. It's uncontrolled. Your countries are being ruined. The United Nations is funding an assault on Western countries and their borders. In 2024, the UN budgeted $372 million in cash assistance to support an estimated 624,000 migrants journeying into the United States. Think of that. The UN is supporting people that are illegally coming into the United States, and then we have to get them out. The UN also provided food, shelter, transportation, and debit cards to illegal aliens. Can you believe that? On the way to infiltrate our southern border. Millions of people came through that southern border. Just a year ago, millions and millions of people were pouring in, 25 million altogether over the 4 years of the incompetent Biden administration. And now we have it stopped, totally stopped. In fact, they're not even coming anymore because they know they can't get through. But what took place is totally unacceptable. The UN is supposed to stop invasions, not create them and not finance them. In the United States, we reject the idea that mass numbers of people from foreign lands can be permitted to travel halfway around the world, trample our borders, violate our sovereignty, cause unmitigated crime, and deplete our social safety net. We have reasserted that America belongs to the American people, and I encourage all countries to take their own stand in defense of their citizens as well. You have to do that because I see it. I'm not mentioning names. I see it, and I can call every single one of them out. You're destroying your countries. They're being destroyed. Europe is in serious trouble. They've been invaded by a force of illegal aliens like nobody's ever seen before. Illegal aliens are pouring into Europe. Nobody is ever, and nobody's doing anything to change it, to get them out. It's not sustainable. And because they choose to be politically correct, they're doing just absolutely nothing about it. And I have to say, I look at London where you have a terrible mayor, terrible, terrible mayor. And it's been so changed, so changed. Now they want to go to Sharia law. But you're in a different country. You can't do that. Both the immigration and their suicidal energy ideas will be the death of Western Europe if something is not done immediately. This cannot be sustained. What makes the world so beautiful is that each country is unique. But to stay this way, every sovereign nation must have the right to control their own borders. You have the right to control your borders, as we do now, and to limit the sheer numbers of migrants entering their countries and paid for by the people of that nation that were there and that built that particular nation at the time. They put their blood, sweat, tears, money into that country, and now they're being ruined. Proud nations must be allowed to protect their communities and prevent their societies from being overwhelmed by people they have never seen before, with different customs, religions, with different everything. Where migrants have violated laws, lodged false asylum claims, or claimed refugee status for illegitimate reasons, they should, in many cases, be immediately sent home. And while we will always have a big heart for places and people that are struggling and truly compassionate, answers will be given. We have to solve the problem, and we have to solve it in their countries, not create new problems in our countries. And we are very helpful to a lot of countries that are just not able to send their people anymore. They used to send them to us in caravans of 25,000, 30,000 people each. These massive caravans of people pouring into our country, totally unchecked and unvetted. But not anymore. According to the Council of Europe, in 2024, almost 50% of inmates in German prisons were foreign nationals or migrants. In Austria, the number was 53% of the people in prisons were from places that weren't from where they are now. In Greece, the number was 54%, and in Switzerland, beautiful Switzerland, 72% of the people in prisons are from outside of Switzerland. When your prisons are filled with so-called asylum seekers who repaid kindness, and that's what they did, they repaid kindness with crime, it's time to end the failed experiment of open borders. You have to end it now. See, I can tell you. I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell. In America, we've taken bold action to swiftly shut down uncontrolled migration. Once we started detaining and deporting everyone who crossed the border and removing illegal aliens from the United States, they simply stopped coming. They're not coming anymore. We're getting a lot of credit, but they're not coming anymore. This was a humanitarian act for all involved, because on the trips up, thousands of people a week were dying. Women were being raped. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Raped, horribly beaten, raped. On the trip up, the journey up, it was a long walk. It was a long, arduous journey, indeed. And it was also a historic victory against human trafficking throughout the region. What we did was a victory, and we saved so many lives of people that wouldn't make the journey. That journey was loaded up with death. Loaded up with death. Dead bodies all along the roads of jungles to get up. They go through jungles, they go through